Nobody should have to experience being carjacked when they're just trying to go to work in the morning. This is West Philadelphia at 6 a.m., September 7th, 2022. Hey guys, retired Lieutenant Todd Heaton here with Humilitas First. The Philadelphia police, they included some still photos with the original video. So we see these two men, hoods up, masks on, walk southbound past the target car. So my best guess is this was before our victim came out and got in his car. In executive protection, this seems often represent your greatest point of vulnerability, your greatest exposure. So how efficient are you at transitioning through those seams? You can't sit in the car for 30 seconds, a minute and a half. Rather, you need to get in the car, start the car, put the car in gear, and get the car moving. Because in a high crime dangerous area, circumstances can change rapidly in a mere 30 seconds. As it relates to avoiding becoming a victim, time is your greatest adversary. So you have to learn to be efficient. Here's another photo. These guys meet up with the guy on a bicycle prior to the robbery. Bike guy is not believed to be involved. Looking at where the camera is located and this truck parked, it puts these guys about 60 feet or 18.48 meters from the victim. You ought to be able to see those red flags I showed you at 60 feet. So whatever plan you have for dealing with these two, it needs to happen at this greater distance. So this is what these guys look like when there's no target in sight. They're kind of walking together, relaxed and talking to each other, basically side by side, like normal people do. As these guys move in to do the deed, look how they stacked up in a kind of formation. Don't get me wrong, they could still do the deed from a side-by-side positioning if they saw an opportunity. But this is another red flag telling me that these guys are stacked in hunt mode. Number one's hands are free swinging, which should tell anybody looking at him, oh, no threat there. Conversely, number two, he has his right hand in his right coat pocket. His left hand's free swinging. Number one's acting as kind of a little bit of a blocker for number two. This is a disinterested near pass. They're not going to look at the driver. They're telling him a story with the orientation or the positioning of their hips and shoulders. The story is, we're just passing by. We're not interested in you. You're all good. That is, until number one reaches the apex point. That point where he's close off of the guy's left flank. He can pivot 90 degrees, simultaneously reach into his right coat pocket and pull out his pistola. Here's the reach for the door, the presentation of the gun, followed by 100% compliance and bad guy domination under threat of death. At this point, we see number two complete his draw, brandishing his firearm. I understand these tactics and I teach them, but I'm human and certainly not beyond becoming distracted. So it's going to depend upon at what point I see this developing threat as to what I do. I might do the exact same thing the victim did here, which was comply 100% and be a good witness. I'm not looking to go to war with these idiots. I'm looking to avoid them so I don't have to get shot, killed, or prosecuted by an activist prosecutor who's confused about the fact that unjust aggressors are the bad guys. So if that's your plan, then you need to realize you need to see this spinning up at about the 60-foot distance mark. In other words, the farther the better. If for some reason I cannot immediately just pull away, and there are reasons, then another option is to get out of the vehicle and go back into my apartment. Getting out allows me to regain mobility. The ability to move is better than trying to fight from a seated position in my car. In law enforcement, we call the interior of the car the tomb. If I can't get out of my car, and there are reasons for this as well, then maybe I get my gun out early and keep it out of sight, keep it hidden, so I don't have a problem with that activist prosecutor until it's time for the defensive surprise party. Conversely, if I don't see these guys until this point, then I'm going to wait until my super dark driver's side tinted windows come into play, because if he happens to see me going for my gun, doing a gun draw, I'm going to get shot. So to draw, I need greater distance, a dark obscuring or obstructing tint, or he needs to be distracted with the focal shift of reaching for the door handle and opening the door. That's a transition. By no means is this any kind of guarantee. There are no guarantees. That said, if you were to do an internet search or come to me for training, I can show you a number of instances
Police! Give me your hand! Give me your hand!
where exploiting a transitionary focal shift stacked the odds in the innocent defender's direction, which resulted in the defender dominating and winning that battle. Look, the process of him pivoting while simultaneously reaching for and getting his hand on his pistol, that's going to happen in half a second or less. This defensive strategy is still a gamble, and you better be really good with timing. Timing is very important here. That said, have you ever dry fire practiced drawing an unloaded pistol from the holster while seated in the driver's seat? Maybe do this while parked inside your garage or off on your friend's farm, away from prying eyes. The first time I tried it was a complete goat rope because the type of untucked button down shirt that I wore and the way that the seatbelt kind of held the shirt down, I immediately saw I was going to need to make some adjustments. I'm going to bet a lot of you have never done this. While I'd done it on duty, I'd never done it concealed carry until I started teaching it. So if you don't want to learn about those problems at this point, you have to do the work, the repetitions, which are going to help you to find the solutions to your unique problems. None of this is rocket science, but you have to do the work, the dry fire practice, practicing those things that you'd like to be really good at. Finally, here's the number one solution to this problem. Be prepared and have the intention of leaving your home 15 minutes early every single time you have to be somewhere at a certain time. Look out the window. Look both directions, just like we were taught to do when we crossed the street, to see if there are two or more idiots like this rocking red flags. If the answer is yes, then just wait 5 minutes and take another look. Rinse and repeat. A lot of transient wolves, they're out on the prowl and they tend to move on when they don't see any opportunities. Most people, they're going to leave on time or they're going to leave late, which in my book, both of those are late. Why? Well, if your most precious commodity is time, and it is, then by building time in to the whole equation, then when you arrive at your destination, you've got the time for similar strategy and tactics to avoid meet and greets with unjust criminal aggressors. Somebody out there is going to be wondering, but what if they're still loitering at the 15-minute mark and now I have to go? Well, for me, maybe I take a personal day and call off work, or maybe I just work from home if that's an option. I want you to think about this for a second. Even in a high crime, dangerous area, how often do you think that's actually going to happen? Probably 9 out of 10 times you're going to look out the window and there's not going to be any strangers rocking red flags. Nobody's going to be in the vicinity that has you concerned. So it's going to be business as usual, meaning you simply leave 15 minutes early. Now you've built in time to deal with any potential problems on the other end when you arrive at your destination. So for the 1 out of 10 times, or maybe it's 1 out of 100 times, that it is a problem, there's a couple of guys rocking some red flags. This kind of thing doesn't apply everywhere all the time. We're talking about a high crime dangerous area. Well, by looking out the window, then you radically reduce the probability that that problem is going to be your problem. You didn't just walk outside, you looked. And now if you don't want to take a personal day, or you don't want to work from home, or that's not an option, then yeah, okay, maybe you have to gamble. It's just reducing the frequency that we're gambling. That's what this comes down to. Plus, just give the transient wolf 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then at the 15-minute mark, maybe he's moved on. Some number of wolves are going to move on, and they're not going to be your problem.